So welcome everybody to our real estate industry professional webinar here today. This will be hopefully about 30 minutes. And today we are going to discuss one of my favorite topics, which is nurturing your database. We call it our daily success plan. I learned that from a great mortgage coach I worked with, Carl White, and his team. And this is something that we've added as a team to our process and workflow. So this is a proven strategy to enhance relationships, drive referrals, and strengthen our residual business. And we commit to this outbound prospecting every day. We commit to tracking our database and our conversations. And again, we're putting it into our daily workflow. This is one of my absolute favorite topics and something I wish I learned when I was just starting out. It's all about becoming the center of the sphere of influence for people and fostering connection and collaboration, right? So I always say, in my case, I'm a lender. I help people with mortgages. So when somebody thinks mortgage, I want them to think Lindsay, mortgage, Lindsay, mortgage, Lindsay, mortgage, Lindsay, right? I want that to be ingrained in people's minds. So how do we do that? Well, it's not just by calling people up and saying, hey, do you need a mortgage? Great, I can give you a mortgage. That's not how it happened. It's about this relationship building. And I've heard other people call it like karma networking, right? Find out how you can help people. Good business begets good business is actually a phrase that I grew up in the industry working for my dad. That's one of his core sayings. Good business begets good business. And so this is the idea of working your network and working your database so that you're always helping somebody else and you become seen as that person who's helping people, right? And so inherently everything just keeps giving. You give and give and give, and then people give back to you. And by the way, if anybody was hoping today on this presentation that I was going to give you some easy button, clickbait, like here's how we're nurturing our database and we're getting all these leads and it's super easy. Spoiler alert, this is just all the tried and true hard work, dedication that all of us in our sphere, right, are already doing together, and we do day in and day out. And we want to help people. We want to help them have a better, in my case, real estate transaction, right? We want to make sure that their home feels comfortable to them, that they understand how the mortgage works, that they understand what type of an asset their house is. And that comes along with a lot of other connections that they may need in the future or while they're buying their house, right? Realtors, attorneys, insurance agents, home inspectors, builders, repair people, accountants, financial planners. Maybe they get a flat tire and they need a referral to an auto mechanic, right? Like being there for people to just help them, whatever their time of need is. And I think one of the best things and also the hardest things, if you're in, like I said, we've got insurance agents, we've got attorneys, we've got realtors, I'm a lender, we've got all of us here together on this call. Most of us are working on a commission-based schedule, right? We're not just clocking in 9 to 5. We have to define our own success. We have to make our own schedules. And at the end of the day, how do we leave feeling satisfied and knowing that we did our job? Well, again, I'm obsessed with this topic and I talk to my team about it all the time when we're all coaching and motivating each other. And again, I wish that I started doing this from day one. Two things: tracking everything, all my conversations, tracking all my contacts, and understanding my conversion rates, right? How many people do I have to talk to in order for that to actually come into fruition as a closed customer? And let's talk about what those two things mean. And by the way, I'm going to give you some scripts we're using now, some ideas we're using now. I may even ask and pull up from the audience if any of you want to come on the big screen and we can run through some strategies here. But this is just kind of laying the groundwork to start off with. So as far as databasing goes, there's tons of options out there, right? There's all these shiny objects and different companies have different things and different CRM, customer retention programs. And you can do, you can have a million different options. You can get caught up in trying to figure out what would really be the best. best thing. But what it comes down to is whatever you're going to use is the best program. And when I say make a database and track who you're talking to, I'm talking filling the funnel, right? You hear people talk about filling the funnel. The more names, phones, email addresses you have, though that's your job security, right? Those are your future contacts, your future potential business that you're working off of. So name, phone, email, and notes, and maybe you want to categorize into some kind of a status. It doesn't matter if you're using like a notebook. That when I started off, I just had everything on a handwritten notebook. At the end of the year, I'd have like hundreds of handwritten notebooks. That was fine for me when I was doing, 20, 30, 40, 50 loans a year. But when I needed to scale, when I wanted to grow, it was really unorganized to have everything in those notebooks. So I moved to a spreadsheet, right? That was like level two, putting it on a spreadsheet or a Google sheet. And then that could scale from 50 to 75 to 100, right? Because I was a little bit more organized and better at follow up and could build my relationships because I could remember who I was talking to and what I talked about a lot better than I could when it was just on some sticky notes that I'd lose under my desk at the end of the day. And then of course there's special fancy CRM programs, and a lot of you, again, we've got people on this call that are brand new agents, so they may be at the notebook level. We've got people on the call that are veteran in the industry, and they probably have robust CRM platforms that they're working with. So whatever works for you, whatever you're actually going to use and stick to, is the first commitment. And then from there, you can understand what your conversion rates are, right? So this is all about how at the end of the day can you say that you did your job and feel satisfied with what you did. So you can either track your own statistics, or you can just figure out whatever's average for your industry. So like for us in the mortgage world, about every 4 people who are referred to us becomes a closed customer. Now, again, I am not talking about paid leads or online leads or buying lists or anything like that. Those are totally different. Personally, I don't do any of that strategy. It's all personally referred. Again, because I love nurturing the database, it's all personally referred conversations that I'm talking about. So for personally referred conversations, about 1 in 4 actually closes. So you can work that backwards, right? So you can find out for your industry and for your own business, if you've been tracking your leads, you already know what the conversion rate is that you have, or you could use this metric. So as an example, if you wanted to close 50 units a year, a quarter of your conversations are actually going to close, right? So work backwards. You'd need to talk to 200 people referred into you, which is about 4 leads per week. So call that like one lead a business day, basically, right? You get to take Friday off. So that's how you know at the end of the day, you did what you're supposed to do if that was your result, if you had 1 incoming lead. I put it on a sticky note next to me, next to my computer, right? And I actually have that in front of me all the time. So at the end of the day, I know how many incoming conversations I needed, and I know whether or not I did my job. And if I didn't get to that number today, then I know tomorrow I need to focus on more database nurturing, outbound prospecting, right? I need to generate those incoming contacts. So what exactly is our daily success plan that we're doing here on our team? And by the way, this is kind of vulnerable for me, right, too, because I'm sort of like lifting up, showing you under the hood, and talking to you a lot about our personal strategy here and what we're doing. So we are committed to actually blocking off 2 hours a day for this type of prospecting. I'm not saying you have to start with 2 hours a day if you're doing none right now, or if you're doing truly more than that, great, good for you. Contact me. I need more motivation, right? But that chunk works for me because then there's a lot of other stuff I have to do throughout the day, paperwork and follow-up wise. but committing to that prospecting time is huge. And who are we actually talking to? How are we building our database? What are the people that we're calling? Well, friends and family, other industry partners, anyone in different spheres of influence that you're a part of. And then, of course, going back to that, tracking all of your customer database tracking too. That's going to be all of your leads that contact you that haven't actually converted, people in my case that are out pre-approved and looking for a house, people that are under contract, people who've actually closed on their properties. And depending on the industry you're in, like if you're an insurance agent, you may not have these categories of customers, but you can categorize them how it would work for you. And again, there's no shiny magic button, right? This is like phone calls. This is getting in front of people face to face. I think right now, especially in this market, people are in the planning phase for so much longer than they have been historically. So people are not necessarily just seeing a house that they like immediately and contacting us for pre-approval and making an offer that day, right? There's not a lot of inventory right now. So there's less motivation to actually kind of get things moving, right? So sometimes people get pre-approved and it's taking them 2 months or 2 years even to try to find the right place to move to and to make an offer on and to go through the whole rest of that process. So now more than ever, this routine, structured check-in and follow-up is so important. And it's phone calls, right? We alternate in phone calls and then sometimes a text, sometimes an email, maybe a video message, right? You can get fancy, you can do other stuff, but nothing beats that. Just tried and true, getting someone on the phone and having a chat with them. And here's the thing, this is not, again, like I said in the beginning, this is not, hi, I do mortgages. Do you need a mortgage? No. This is all about my favorite acronym here, FROG them. Family, recreation, occupation, goals, right? You're getting to know people. And that's what's so cool about our business. We get to know so many people and learn what makes people tick, right? Everybody has a different reason that they're buying this house right now, why they want to live in this area, what it means to themselves, what it means to their family and their goals. And we get to find that out all the time. And we get to connect those dots and help them connect and engage in their community. And so we get the privilege of having this opportunity to be the center of somebody's sphere. So these conversations are really like, hey, you're awesome. How you doing? Thanks so much for trusting us to help you with their house. And who else do you know that might need help just like we helped you, right? Or checking in on how your search is going or whatever it is, depending on the stage that they're in. So we have different scripts that we use for each of these kind of categories, whether we're calling friends and family, real estate partners, other spheres of influence, customers. Those are going to change throughout the year and they're going to change depending on who we're calling. I think that's like one of the number one questions that comes up, whether, especially when I'm coaching my team or when I'm talking to other industry professionals, they're like, yeah, but when you do this, like prospecting, database nurturing, all that stuff, what do you actually talk about? And I think the thing I've realized is once you pick up the phone and make a call, the conversation's going to flow from there. It's less important to have a set, special shiny object reason to be calling and more important just to be doing the calls. So one of the most successful areas that we've been having right now in calling is our database, our closed already homeowners, our closed database calls. And I wanted to focus on that a little bit today. I know I dove into the detail of the tracking and knowing your conversion and understanding why and how we're making these calls, but I want to do a little scripting around that because I asked my team earlier today, and I asked some of my friends and family. This was just like a very basic general poll. After you bought your house, have you heard at all from your real estate agent? And I got all sorts of answers from that, right? Or have you heard from your lender? Or have you heard from your insurance agent or your attorney, right? And there's such a varying degree from like, I don't even remember who my lender was to, oh yeah, mine calls me on the 1 year anniversary every year, right? So the closed database calls, nurturing your database, this is my favorite part of doing these calls. So this is a check-in call. So I lost my slides here. This is a check-in call, and what we're doing now is we're doing an annual mortgage review. And you can organize it however you want to, whatever's gonna make you actually commit to doing it. Some people like to do 2 letters of the alphabet per week, all right? So you'd actually get through your list multiple times throughout the year. Some people like to just do one big check-in on the anniversary of their closing date. I would say, like, don't worry about how you're doing it. If you're not doing it at all, just get started doing it. And for us, we're doing an annual mortgage review because we're in mortgages. But for whatever your industry is, you could do an annual insurance checkup, an annual comparative market analysis, right? If you're a realtor, how cool would that be to get a CMA from your realtor on, the anniversary of your closing? And that might spark some interest, like, hey, my house is worth, twice as much as I bought it for. Maybe I want to sell it. Maybe I want to take out some equity and do some renovations, right? So sometimes I think we overthink what we have to talk about, but really just phrasing it as a checkup. This is a checkup. Your house, a person's house and a person's mortgage and insurance they pay and taxes they pay, right, are oftentimes their biggest debt and also their biggest asset. So again, we want to frame ourselves to be the center of their sphere when they have questions around that big debt or that big asset there. And there's so many common talking points that come up that, it really, what I love is it helps me talk to my active customers because I just get practice around answering so many common questions that come up for people. It helps me in my future conversations too. And again, these are the best calls because you're just, hey, remember me? I helped you with your house purchase a couple years ago or last year or last month or whenever. You were awesome to work with. Thanks so much for letting me be your guide. How you doing? They're going to tell you stuff. And then you can offer support, however, and reminding them that you're going to check in from time to time, right? We're training ourselves and also training our our referral partners, our database, our customers to understand how we do business and that we care and that we want to be involved just beyond the initial transaction, right? Real estate can be very transactional. And so my goal is always to transcend that transaction. How can I make this less transactional? How can I leave an impression, right? Where can I say thank you? Where can I add in a little extra something that the people weren't expecting that makes them want to come back for more, continue to do business, ask for advice, help each other? And it's that again, I keep saying this sphere, this network, right? But that's what keeps things going, those deep relationships. And it goes back and forth. I may need something that my customer has, right? I've reached out to my own database to help find certain services that I need too. So on this annual review kind of idea and contacting your database, I'd love to just talk about, pause here toward the end, because I really did want to wrap this up in about 30 minutes. And anybody that's listening in here, any of our participants, any of my staff that might be on the call right now, I'd love to just kind of run through like a sample script. So, or just hear from you if you've had luck nurturing your database, if you have like a fancy tip or trick that you want to share. Is there anybody, you can either offer it up in the Q&A section, which should be on your toolbar. It says Q&A. And I know sometimes people they're like, oh, I don't want to share my secret sauce because it's my secret sauce, but I believe in collaboration and connection, and I believe in sharing secrets. So if there is something you're comfortable sharing, you can share it. And if you really are feeling bold, then there's either a hand raising tool, or you could pop in the Q&A and I could bring you up to panelist, like my friend Ryan here, who wanted to come up to panelist. So let's see if Ryan's ready and if he's ready to be on video. But anyone else that wants to offer up any suggestions, any ideas in the Q&A box. Hey, Ryan.
Hey.
Please do so. So Ryan, you've been having some really awesome conversations we've been talking about with some of these database calls that you're doing. So can you just offer up your 2 cents, maybe tell a good story or a good example of something that's worked well for you recently?
Yeah, sure. So what I've been focusing on recently is going through my database and looking at people who have rates that are at 5% or higher, which in the last couple of years, that's a lot of people that I can reach out to. So it's good to just touch base with them to let them know, it might make sense in the near future to refinance. But, if you're thinking about buying a new house in the meantime, or doing any renovations, or if you know anyone else that's buying houses or is looking to get pre-approved or refinance on their, themselves, I'd love to help with them too. And that's been really successful because, I'm letting people know that I'm going to be reaching out to them when it makes sense for them to refinance, but I'm also getting other leads from those conversations. Just
Awesome.
last week, I was talking to someone who I've worked with twice in the past, and she sent me her daughter who's looking to buy a house. So I spoke with them, and I'm working on getting them pre-approved now. And it's going to be a little bit of a process, but it's
It's always a
another,
little bit of a process, right?
yeah, right.
That's
They're not
awesome though.
always overnight.
And that just continues to enhance your sphere of influence, right? Because presumably that person, worked with a realtor that you like to work with, and you can give the realtor a heads up. Hey, I was just talking to so-and-so, their cousin's going to buy, we're going to send them back to you, right? The insurance agent, it keeps the whole train chugging along when we're all working like this and we're all helping to improve people's experiences. That's awesome.
Right. And just staying in front of people too. It's, we're in a very competitive business. So they're going to get 100 calls from 100 different lenders looking for, different rates and different programs, and everyone has the greatest one. So if you can stay in front of them and let them know that you're here and you're looking at their information, and, you want to help them again, they already know you did a good job the first time. It's a good way to stay in front of any potential competition that's going to come later when rates actually do come down.
I love that. So you're a trusted person that's staying in their corner. That's huge. Thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
And I had Jeff. So none of our other attendees are feeling too brave right now, but some of my staff stepped up. So thanks, guys. So I've got Ryan. I'm just gonna mute you. Thanks for hopping on, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff. So Jeff, you're a great example because relatively new, right? So for those of you that are joining us that aren't veterans, and you're sitting here and you're like, well, hey, lady, thanks for telling me to call my closed customer database, but guess what? I haven't closed any customers yet. So Jeff's 2 years, right? 2 years into being a loan officer, but you have a whole decade of experience in other parts of mortgage and banking, which is awesome. But tell me, when you're doing these calls, do you have an example of good connections that you're making that maybe aren't closed customers, but you're making connections in other ways?
Yeah, so to reference Carl White, who you mentioned earlier in the call, like one of the things he's got a podcast I listen to a lot, and it kind of just referenced, look through your contacts in your phone, and is there anyone on there that if we called right now wouldn't know what you do for work? And if you kind of use that mentality, whether it's your Facebook connections, your contacts in your phone, and just starting off from there of, hey, I just changed my job. This is what I do now. Do you or anyone need any help, with a mortgage? And just doing that of starting off with, family and friends and people that it's more comfortable to have those conversations with anyways, because usually if they're in your phone, they're someone that likes you or you like them, or, so at least there's a connection there already, and it makes it a little bit more comfortable. And as you do it, it's easier to expand off of that of, as you build up the database in other areas of, real estate professionals and kind of branch out more from your own sphere. But just, anyone that's a connection, using them as someone that you can reach out to and just saying, hey, I'd love to help out you or any of your friends or family if the opportunity comes up.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I just learned too about a program. I was just looking it up. It's called Covey, I think, Covve, and it lets you export the contacts on your phone. And it looks like it's free. It's one click of a button and you can export your phone contacts. So again, for anyone that's newer, that's starting out, that may be a good tool, something like that, where you can actually just get your contacts into a spreadsheet and go through them, right? And that's a simple call. I had a business coach one time that used to call those like softball tosses. So, when you're trying to ease into making these connections and everything, just pick somebody who's a raving fan. Start with your brother or your mom or something, right off the bat, and kind of ease your way into it and get a feel of it, and then lock in. Thanks, Jeff. So speaking of that, there's also this idea of call reluctance that happens, right? Like you don't want to do the calls, you get stuck. And so I think that some of the strategies that have worked, I've kind of got outlined here, but Ryan and Jeff, since you're actually up here with me on this panel, other than these bullets here that everyone can read for themselves, but any of these really work for you, or any other ones work for you when you're trying to get in that groove, and other than me yelling at you to do it?
I think it's great how we all meet on a Zoom call, having that accountability of someone else looking over. And if they see you, your mouth not moving, they know you're not talking to someone. So preventing that from happening, kind of like the guilt, of working together. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. So what Ryan's talking
have some
about, for those of you that are listening in, we do as a team, we all actually hop on a Zoom, because we're not always in the office at the same time, but to help each other with accountability, we actually hop on a Zoom together like this, but then we mute, right? So we can see each other, but we can't hear each other. And then we all dive in and we do all of our outbound prospecting together as a group. So we're in the Zoom room, like Ryan said, we can see each other talking and moving, right? But we're muted, so we can't hear. So we have that accountability. If anyone wants help around accountability too, reach out to myself or one of my team members. You can hop on our Zoom if you want to.
And I think one thing to add on that I find is really crucial is like shutting off alerts on your phone for other things during that time. Because, especially if you're, looking up someone's number, or their contact, and you're on Facebook to find it, or you're in your phone, it's so easy to get sucked into a hole of, just getting distracted by something else. So trying to really be diligent on that, and the Zoom call is a great way to keep that accountability and just discipline yourself to not all of a sudden be on Instagram looking at 12 videos and like, what have I done for the past 20 minutes?
Totally. I just got down an Instagram rabbit hole myself, and I did the same thing. And I'm like, what? I just wasted 17 minutes looking at, dogs and babies, whatever, singing or something like that. So shutting off the notifications are huge. And I think just getting this into the daily routine, right? Because we're in this market right now where the pie's smaller, right? Let's all be honest and state what's happened over the last couple of years. The pie's a lot smaller. And so it's hard to stay motivated when maybe we're all working as hard or harder than we've ever worked. And, there's not a lot of houses going on. There's not a lot of stuff coming together, right? It's like we're working 5 times, maybe even 20 times as hard for less results. And so finding that motivation to keep doing it, I just keep telling everyone on my team, we are like pushing the accelerator button, and anytime anything gets incrementally easier, more listings come on the market, rates come down a little bit, right? And we're still accelerating, it's just exponentially going to get easier, and it will happen. And leaning on the database, the raving fans that we all have, is huge right now. And that's the goal of all of this, just continuing to create raving fans. measuring your success however you want to. We like to measure our 5-star reviews, right? That's a really great goal. We want to have people have a great experience. So it's not just the numbers of who we're talking to, it's that experience. And that's what's going into the way that we're doing all of our database nurturing, and continuing to build our spheres. So we're training ourselves every day, and we're training our network every day that we're the go-to person, and we want to help. That's the goal. We just want to keep helping. And then that, again, good business begets good business. I firmly believe comes back and keeps things going in the end. So thank you all. This is great. If anyone else wants to add anything in the chat box, or has any final things, wants to put themselves out there and hop up on the big screen, I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Jeff, for coming on and just giving us some of your wisdom today too. I will send this recording out so that everyone has it. And any questions anyone else has at all, feel free to contact myself, anyone on my team. We're always looking for new ideas, always looking for feedback on these presentations. We've got another one coming up in March where we'll talk about the difference between different types of pre-approvals. So you hear the term pre-approval, pre-qualification, fully underwritten pre-approval, right? What do those actually mean? So stay tuned for that. Send us in your future ideas. Thanks, everyone. See you later.